Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have 13 hearings covering a variety of civil infractions, including expired plates, window tint, dogs running loose, and lots of people speeding. We will hear all manner of creative excuses, including claims of confusion, prejudice, medical distress, and lots of people who don't feel like they could have been speeding. Let's see what the judge thinks.
Well, all right, so this is a citation. It was written on July 15th of this year on 124th Avenue there in Wayland Township, County, State of Michigan. It's a civil infraction following too closely. Ma'am, you're here on this citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Probably fight it.
All right. Then I would ask you and the deputy to go ahead and raise your right hand so I can swear you in. You swear or affirm any testimony that you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Ma'am, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why he issued you a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask him questions or testify in your own behalf. All right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And with that, Deputy Miller, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. As indicated on July 15th, 2023 at approximately 10:27 a.m., I was traveling westbound on 124th Avenue, in which I had my cruise set at 55 miles per hour zone, being that it was a 55-mile road. This time that there was a vehicle behind me, at which time I saw a third car come up behind the second car behind me that was very close. As we were traveling along, the third car, which would be Miss Campice's car, pulled out and went to pass. It's presumed upon being the patrol car, being that I was doing 55, she ducked quickly back behind the second car, in which there was less than 1 car length between the two cars. At this time, I pulled off to the side, let her go by, at which time I initiated traffic stop on the vehicle. I then identified the driver, Ms. Campice, and speaking with her, I advised her that the rule of thumb was generally 1 car length for 10 miles an hour, and that she was closer to that vehicle and should have stopped. Suddenly, an accident would be inevitable. Upon speaking with Ms. Campice, she stated that she knew she was closer than the 3-second rule. As I gave her citation for following too closely, she made the comment that there were 3 other cars that did the same thing, and that why I did not pull them over. I explained to Ms. Campice that it was impossible to stop them, being that I was dealing with a traffic stop with her, and that I just could not leave and go attend to the other cars. As a result of this incident, I did issue her citation number SD20716 for following too close. And upon explaining the citation, Ms. Campice advised that she knew how to type the ticket. I have nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
All right, ma'am, and what is it you'd like to tell me?
I clarified correct the way that he said it. I was a pass. There was 2 cars in front of me. The first car was going 47, and so I decided that I would pass. And upon deciding to pass, I saw on my left there was like a branch in the road. And so as I was going to pass, I stopped passing and got in behind that other car to avoid what was in the road. And so I know that, you have to, give proper distance, but I didn't want to hit what was in the road. And I have, I was traveling from a cottage to my house. I was in no reason to be in a hurry. I do that drive, a few times a week. And I had a 15-year-old son, now 16, in the front seat of the car. And I couldn't really give him a reason why it happened. I mean, you go to pass somebody, so of course you're going to be close to them, but following too closely didn't occur at all.
Okay, ma'am. Well, essentially, you don't have a ticket here for speeding. You have a ticket for tailgating.
Well,
So
and
do you have a recollection, or would you like to provide testimony of how close you were to the car in front of you? The
well,
officer's already provided that testimony.
right. Well, you know, as you're going to pass somebody, when you're obviously going to be close to them when you're going to pass them. So that makes total sense that I was close. But when you go to pass somebody, you're always going to be right next to them, right? I mean, I guess I'm unsure of.
Sure, but here's the problem is you wouldn't have time to react. That's why there's a safe distance. You're supposed to be following another car. If you're inside of that distance, then you don't have the human reaction time to react to what they're doing. That's why you got the ticket.
The only reason why I was close to that car was because I was going to pass them. And when you pass somebody, you're literally like right next to the car, you know, when you're passing.
What do you mean by, well, yeah, you mean next to, like, side by side? That's not what you have a ticket for.
That's what
Ma'am, that's not what you have a ticket for. What you have a ticket for is the front of your car getting too close to the back of their car while you were traveling in the same lane of traffic. Not that you were too close to the car next to it while passing.
That didn't happen. I wasn't close to the car behind me.
Okay. That's not the testimony of the officer, but I'll have the officer reiterate just so you're clear. Officer, did you write a ticket for following too close because she was too close when she was parallel to the vehicle that was behind you?
Or no, it's because she was directly behind it, less than one car length. As she approached the second car, the car that was behind me, she approached very close. And then, like I said, she went to go past that car, and upon passing that car and approaching to my car, it's assumed that, because she didn't say it, saw my patrol car stop suddenly and got right behind the other car and followed right behind the other car at a very close distance, in which that second car would stop, and an accident would have been inevitable.
Yes, ma'am. So the ticket is for when you're following the car, not when you're passing the car.
I understand that, but I didn't know that it was a police officer when I was going to pass him. It's an unmarked vehicle. I didn't know that. And the only reason why I got in behind that car was because there was something in the road. So is your choice to hit whatever's in the road? I mean, I didn't know.
Okay, ma'am. Again, that's not the period of time that we're talking about that you have a ticket for. The period of time you have a ticket for is as you're driving behind this car, you're too close. It seems to be that you don't understand and that's your testimony, but what I've heard from the officer, I would find you responsible on this citation as it's written, that you were too close to that vehicle. And we're not maintaining a safe distance from that vehicle. Here's what you need to understand.
It says objects in here are closer than they appear. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense how he could have seen that and still been paying attention to the front of whatever was in front of him.
Well, that's what he does for a living. So I already heard the testimony. Sure. Man, this is time for my ruling. All right. You've had time to present your case. And 80% of what you presented was not relevant for your ticket. So you do have a right, because you had a contested hearing, to say, I don't agree with that, and appeal this to formal hearing with the prosecutor's office in front of the district court judges. But you must do that within 7 days of today's date, and you must do that formally in writing. Otherwise, the opportunity to continue to pursue this closes. Do you understand your rights on appeal? Is that a yes, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're all set then. I'm going to go ahead and release you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I believe your next one might be here as well. All right, on the iPhone, tell us your name, please.
Stephen Green.
All right. So, Mr. Green, this is a different speeding ticket than you were in on the other day. This one says on July 20th of this year on US 131 in Dunplain Township that you were driving 86 miles in a 70. However, this officer only wrote you for a 1 to 5 over. You're here on this citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What is it you're looking to do, sir?
Informal hearing.
Okay, sir, I will just tell you this before we start. Right now, you have the type of speeding ticket that usually everyone is always asking to get. 1 to 5 over, but it's indicating a freeway, meaning this is the only speeding ticket that you do not receive points for. You do get a fine and cost from the court, but you get no points on your license. Do you know what I mean by points on your license?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you have every right to have an informal hearing, but I will advise you that the officer can ask for this to be a 1 to 5 over without the freeway indication. A regular 1 to 5 speeder would in fact give you 2 points and the same $100 fine. And so knowing that, you still wish to proceed informal hearing?
So are you saying that the officer can go back and change the ticket just because I am proceeding a certain way with the hearing?
Well, what I'm telling you, sir, is he didn't write you a ticket for going 16 miles over. I would not allow them to amend the ticket to 16 miles over, but he is allowed to amend the ticket 1 to 5 over because you already have a 1 to 5 over, but he does not have to have the freeway on there. That's a benefit to you that you would get no points so that people would not contest their speeding tickets. But if you wish to contest your speeding ticket, you have a right to do that, but it would likely involve points if I were to find you responsible.
Yeah, I would like to contest the ticket.
All right. And Deputy, would you be asking to amend this to 1 to 5 over?
That's correct.
All right. Then I would ask both of you to please raise your right hand so I could swear you in. You swear or affirm any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, Your Honor.
And Mr. Green?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Green, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why he issued you a citation in the first place. But then after that, you'd have an opportunity to testify on your own behalf or ask the officers questions. All right?
Yes, sir.
And with that, Deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation.
Your Honor, as indicated on July 20th, 2023 at approximately 12:54 p.m. while working as a certified peace officer for the Young County Sheriff's Department, the Traffic Division, I was traveling southbound on US 131 when I noticed a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed in the left lane of travel. It was at this time that I activated my radar in the same direction mode with the rear antenna and obtained a reading of 86 in a posted 70-mile-per-hour zone. I then initiated a traffic stop, identified the driver as Mr. Green, who's present here today. Speaking with Mr. Green, he stated that he was on his way to work, in which he left his girlfriend's house in Grand Rapids. In our conversations, he indicated that he needed to be in Kalamazoo and to work by 1:15 p.m. Furthermore, he stated that he was in a hurry and that he had been going 79 miles per hour. As a result of this incident, I did issue him citation number SD 20845 for speed. However, I did reduce it substantially off the actual talking and only wrote him for 75 and 70. I'm a certified radar operator with the Michigan Speed Task Force. My radar was verified before and after my shift in proper working order. The control speed matched the radar speed. I had a good audio visual on the vehicle. There's no other objects or hindrances that were thrown off the radar reading.
All right, and Mr. Green, what is it you'd like to tell us?
Well, for starters, I could barely hear. I don't know if it was just the audio or what, but I could barely hear what the officer was saying. But I just have a question. He said that he was clocking me. How is it that you're clocking me and you're driving next to me in the right-hand lane? I mean, is it possible that you could clock a person and move 70, 80 miles an hour too at the same time? Because if I'm not mistaken, I was in the fast lane and he was in the right lane, and he got behind me once I passed him and pulled me over. So if I heard him correctly, did he state that he was driving and put his radar gun out the window or something towards my car or back towards my car and clocked my
Well,
speed
sir,
as I was passing him.
I'll let the deputy explain, but there's moving radar and stationary radar, and there is a radar gun, but the radar, there's also a radar that's literally part of the car. But I'll have the deputy explain. Deputy, he's asking essentially how you could hit him with radar if you're also moving at a fast speed and that you were perhaps in the right lane while he was in the left lane, and how that would work, that you could have got his car with your radar.
Correct. I radared him with the radar that's mounted in the car. The car is equipped with a front and rear antenna to pick up traffic coming to and from that approaches from the rear. Also, the radar has the capability of obtaining readings in the same direction, meaning I can take radar readings with the rear antenna on vehicles approaching my patrol car, and I can also activate it in the front, moving same direction, moving mode, and obtain clocking with vehicles traveling in front of me. Like I said, he's traveling in the left lane, which is the passing lane on the highway. I noticed he was coming up quite quickly, and that's when I activated my radar in the same direction, rear antenna mode, and obtained the clocking of 86.
So, sir, I understand what you mean about a radar gun that you would literally sort of point with your hand. What the deputy is explaining is his car has a mounted radar, both rear facing and front facing. So he can either get oncoming traffic going in opposite direction of him, or same direction traffic going same direction as him, that you were coming up behind him when he hit you with his rear facing mounted radar.
Okay, I understand. So can this mounted radar zoom in, zero in on cars, one car? So if there's multiple cars coming, are you saying that this was specifically my car going 91 or 96 miles an hour?
So, officer, he's asking how you would determine that the radar speed that you got is actually in his car and not just other cars also moving in that same direction on 131.
The radar unit in my patrol car has multiple displays. That's where the visual comes in. As I was looking in the mirror, he was in the passing lane, the left lane as indicated, and he was overtaking other cars and gaining on me where no other cars were gaining. And that's how I was able to determine that was his car traveling at that speed.
If I'm not mistaken, did he say I was overtaking other cars?
Yes.
Like passing them?
Yes.
I'm just
He said
he
gives him multiple speed displays. And so he knew that it was your car that was the higher speed display because you were the one that was gaining on him.
Oh, so his radar gun shows multiple speeds, including my speed, while he's moving at a certain speed.
Yes.
I'm just kind of confused.
I will tell you this, Mr. Green, just because I remember you from last hearing. I understand a lot of your concern, but I think a lot of your concern is literally based off of like how radaring cars used to work in the past. There's been quite a few developments since those, movies that we're all watching from the 70s and stuff like that. But the radar is, well, there's also laser, which is different than radar, but I can explain it to you, but there's really advances in the technology that it makes a lot of your concerns, which I understand. I think they're legitimate concerns, but they're less vague than you seem to think they might be. They're pretty clear in terms of which car it's hitting and how it's hitting it.
And determining the speed while you're moving too, right?
Well, yes, sir, but essentially that's what I mean by there's a difference. I mean, I can have the officer explain it, but I think you can hear me better. There's a difference between what's called stationary radar, which is when they're sitting on the side of the road like a speed trap, and they're just hitting the cars that come at them. And then moving radar. Moving radar takes into account their patrol car speed. And it's still the distance. In other words, the radar sends a signal out, it bounces off your car back to the car. the radar unit actually figures in the speed of the patrol car to assess the speed of the signal, because essentially it goes out longer than its return. Its return would always be longer because cars are moving. But essentially that's all sort of worked out in the radar. It's a computer, and it, like I said, it's measured against a calibrated speedometer in the vehicle that's separate.
Your Honor, Mr. Green's over in the Allegan area on a day that I work. If to prevent any further traffic citations, I'll be more than glad to let him look inside my patrol car and explain where he can get a visual of how they are set up, how patrol cars are set up, and obtain the readings.
Did you hear that, Mr. Green?
Yes, sir.
The officer is saying
No,
he's probably the officer that writes the most citations in Allegan County. You'd be willing to, if you're ever in Allegan County, kind of show you around this equipment, because essentially what I don't want, the concern I'm worried about is I hear these all the time, and I know sort of more about how these systems work. I'm concerned that you think that you're coming here and just sort of getting railroaded. Everybody just sort of believes the officer. They're writing you tickets, you know, because of who you are, the car you're driving, or something like that. There's a more science that's happening than we really get into at these informal hearings. But, you know, I don't want you walking away from these saying, oh, I'm just, you know, getting railroaded down there in Allegan County. And like I said, I could have it explained more in depth. It's probably actually something you can look up pretty easily online too. And you they'll sort of show you a little YouTube video or something about how these radar systems work. But they're a lot more accurate than I think you're concerned about. But for purposes of what we're doing today, well, go ahead, sir. If you had anything further you wish to ask or present.
No, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, I know. It's sort of time for us to sort of wrap up. But I didn't want to cut you off where you had more you wanted to say. So.
No, sir. I don't. I mean, I completely understand what you're saying. I mean, I really don't have no choice but just to go with what's going on.
All right. Sorry. All right, on the phone, your name, please.
Michael Thrash.
All right. Let me bring the deputy over and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so this is a citation. It was issued on August 5th of this year on 102nd Avenue there, Trowbridge Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is a speeding citation on an actual 74 and a 55. However, the deputy chose to only write it as a 1 to 5 over. So, Mr. Thrash, you're here on this 1 to 5 over speeding ticket to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, to fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I would like to fight the ticket.
All right. But even though I cannot see you, I would ask that you would please raise your right hand the same way the deputy is going to raise his right hand, so I can swear you both in. You swear affirm that any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir. Of course, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Thrash, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued a citation in the first place. But then after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask him questions or testify on your own behalf. All right?
Yep.
So, Deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere it makes sense and explain the issue in this citation.
Yes, sir. On 8/5/2023 at approximately 9:16 p.m., I was heading westbound on 102nd Avenue when I observed two vehicles approaching me at a high rate of speed. I was like, this time I activated my radar, which is calibrated at the beginning and end of my shift, and my radar high toned at 74 miles per hour. So I was approaching vehicles. Due to my training experience, I could tell that both vehicles were traveling approximately the same speed. I then turned on the vehicle and got behind Mr. Thrash, or check that. It would be the other vehicle, Mr. Miller's vehicle. No, it was Mr. Thrash's. Activated my radar, Mr. Thrash pulled over and I went around him and pulled over the front vehicle. Prior to that, I was pacing them at approximately 70 miles per hour. As I stopped the first vehicle, Mr. Thrash pulled in behind me. I then waited for him to go around and I then told him to park in front of the other vehicle that I had just stopped, and he did. And at this time, I cited both vehicles citations for 5 over instead of the 19 over that they were going in the 55-mile-an-hour zone.
All right, and Mr. Thrash, what is it you'd like to tell me?
First of all, Your Honor, I don't know what I even got a ticket for in the first place. I was driving my normal speed. I've never had a speeding ticket ever in my life. I don't know. I just bought this vehicle. We were on the back roads in Allegan County somewhere. I'm from Kalamazoo. And all of a sudden, I seen the police officer coming at us, and he did a U-turn. He went around me, put the lights on, pulled my cousin over. The car that he pulled my cousin over is my other vehicle. It's also issued in my name. It's in my name. I have the registration. I have the proof of insurance. So I pull it over so I can give him the voucher for that, because my cousin didn't have that in the vehicle at the time. So that's what I did. And upon doing that, he took my ID, asked me who I was. I presented my ID just so I can prove that these are my vehicles. And upon doing that, I got a ticket for 1 to 5 over. I was never pulled over. I just wanted to vouch that these were my 2 vehicles, and the one that he did pull over did have registration and proof of insurance.
Okay, well, just to be clear, you don't have citations for any of that stuff. That must have all been in order. What you have a citation for is going 1 to 5 over the speed limit on 102nd at that date and time.
Your Honor, I was never pulled over. I pulled over myself because the car that he pulled over is my vehicle. It's in my name. It's the insurance is in my name. The vehicle is mine.
I understand that, sir, but he's already testified what he issued you a citation for. So if you're contesting that citation, what you would be contesting is the accusation that you're speeding.
I was not speeding, Your Honor. I was going my normal speed. If I was speeding, I probably would have got pulled over. He went around me, pulled over the car in front of me, and then we both get tickets. I don't know how that works. I don't know. I don't understand it. Yeah, I'm not understanding it. I'm from Kalamazoo. I'm not from Allegan County.
It doesn't really help me when you say you're driving your normal speed, sir. The testimony from the officer is that, what's that?
I was going the speed limit. I'm driving my normal speed. I was just going the speed limit. I didn't think I was going 74 miles or whatever he's trying to say I was going. I was not going 74 miles an hour. I had a child in the car. Like I was not going 74 miles an hour.
So how fast are you testifying you were going?
The speed limit, 55 miles an hour.
All right. And what about the other car you were with?
I was not driving that car. That car was in front of me, and that car was in front of me almost a whole football field. So what did that have to do with me? It had nothing to do with me. Like I said,
I'm just asking you if you were driving faster, slower, or same speed as them.
No, I was driving. You know? Yes. We were not driving neck and neck. We were not. I was not following him. He was in front of me, but when the police officer went around me and pulled over the vehicle, it so happened to be my vehicle, the one that he pulled over. So I was just doing the right thing and eliminating a whole bunch of other trash that would have went on because they couldn't show the proof of insurance or whatever. I didn't know if my cousin's driver's license was valid. Of course it was, but I just wanted to make sure everything went accordingly, you know?
And I understand that, but essentially, and we'll go back and talk to the deputy, but essentially the deputy, if he pulls you over first, guess what's going to happen to that lead car? It's going to go bye-bye. So essentially he pulled over the lead car. If you had never pulled over, he probably wouldn't have been able to have caught up to you and issued 2 citations. But to be clear, deputy, I wish you to articulate why you issued a citation to both of these vehicles at this stop.
Because when I activated my radar, when I observed them coming at me at a high rate of speed, it radared at 74. The 2 cars were the only 2 on the road at that time, and they were fairly close together. And I could tell that they were going approximately the same speed. And when I turned around the vehicle, when I got behind Mr. Thrash's vehicle, I did pace them at approximately 70 miles an hour before I activated my overhead lights.
All right. And that's what I want to slow up for Mr. Thrash's edification. So when you're using that front-facing radar and you get to 74, the 74 would be the lead vehicle or the faster vehicle?
It actually on our radar shows both if it can pick them both up. But in that case, it was the front one.
All right. So the front one, you determine their speed with radar at 74. So what I heard you testify, but I want to break it down slower. Mr. Thrash being, well, you didn't know at the time, but you know now, the second car was keeping up with the first car. And that's how you determined they were going approximately that same speed you got the first car at.
That, and when I turned on the vehicle and started following them, I was pacing them behind them at approximately
Yeah, I
70
didn't
miles.
want to get ahead of ourselves. So then you
sorry.
flipped on them,
Yes,
but you didn't turn your lights on.
correct,
You're going to catch up to them.
correct.
Was it your intention at that moment to pull over which car or both cars or either?
Well, seeming the front one was the first one I got, I was gonna pull that one over because I can only pull over one at a time.
All right.
And then when he pulled
And
up
then
behind
as
me,
you were behind them, you said you paced them. Can you put a little more meat on the bone of what you mean by pacing?
yeah, so when we get behind the vehicle and we're driving a speed limit and we get to a point to where we're not either catching up to the vehicle or we're not losing the vehicle, so we're in a sense going the same speed as that vehicle. And I look down, I'm going approximately 70 miles an hour, which tells me that that vehicle in front of me is going approximately 70 miles an hour because I can't catch up to it and I'm not falling behind.
So then you passed up what essentially is Mr. Thrash's vehicle, right?
Correct.
And you pulled over the car in front of him.
Yes, sir.
Who it turns out was his cousin, I think he said. And then so Mr. Thrash voluntarily pulled himself over.
Yes, he pulled in behind me.
All right. But then you issued them both citations.
Yes, I asked him to go in front of his cousins because I don't want my emergency lights blocked from other vehicles that would be coming up behind me.
So at this point in time, Mr. Thrash, I need to find for an informal hearing that the officer has met the elements of the citation they charged you. Essentially, he's only writing you a 1 to 5 over, but he's testified 2 different ways now that he had your speed at, well, significantly more than that, at least 15 over, but they only chose to wrote you for 1 to 5. So I would find you responsible on this citation as it's written. Here's what I want you to understand, because it's probably what you're more interested in. You could accept my finding of responsibility, and then the only thing you would need to do here is to go ahead and make arrangements to pay those fines and costs. But should you decide that you don't agree with what just happened here and you wish to take this further to what we call a formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office, then you must do 2 things, sir. One is within 7 days of today's date, you must formally ask for that formal hearing. That window of opportunity closes after 7 days. And 2, you must come in and ask for that in writing because you would need to post a bond. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yeah.
All right. When we're all set for what we needed to do here today, I'm going to go ahead and release parties. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
This is the ticket before yours. I'm going to pop you back over in the waiting room.
Okay.
And Deputy Chater, this is your person. All right. I'm going to read this citation off. This says that on June 28th of this year on 116th Avenue there in Allegan Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan, Mr. Clemens, you have a speeding citation here on an actual 73 and a 55. However, the deputy chose to only write you for 1 to 5 over. You're here on this speeding citation to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation. 2, you could admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why that happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, have what we call an informal ticket or an informal hearing to fight the ticket. What is your preference?
Would that informal hearing take place right now?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to contest it.
Okay, then I cannot see you, but I would ask you to raise your right hand, the same way the deputy is going to raise his right hand. swear affirm any testimony that you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
Yes,
do.
sir.
All right. Then, Mr. Clemens, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why he issued you a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have the opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. All right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then, Deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere it makes sense, explain the issuing of this citation.
Yes, sir. So to start off, I'd like to say that I'm a certified deputy in the state of Michigan. I am also certified in speed measurement in the state of Michigan. My radar unit is calibrated at the beginning and end of each shift using an independently calibrated speedometer in my patrol vehicle. On 6/28/2023 at approximately 6:36 p.m. while doing stationary radar enforcement on 116th Avenue near Fawn Path Drive in Allegan Township, I observed the defendant's gray Jeep traveling eastbound on 116th Avenue at a high rate of speed, passing an Amazon delivery van. Upon activating my radar, the vehicle was detected doing 73 in a 55 mile per hour zone. The defendant's vehicle was within the operational cone of my radar. The audio tone produced matched the speed readout provided there, and that there was no RFI present. A traffic stop was then conducted. The defendant stated that the Amazon delivery van was kicking up rocks, so he passed it. And a citation was issued, citation number SD 19300 to the defendant for speed for a reduction of 1 to 5 over.
All right, and sir, what is it you'd like to tell me?
Are you speaking to me, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, so on the day on 116th Avenue, correct, is that I was doing 50 and an Amazon truck pulled out in front of me and was spraying rocks and gravel all over the vehicle. So I did pass. It wasn't at 73 miles an hour, or it wasn't even speeding really. And I continued on 116th eastbound, and I passed the officer. He was sitting on the shoulder road. The Amazon truck was behind me, and we continued forward. And about 3 miles later, still heading eastbound, I viewed the police officer doing the same exact thing I did without his lights on, past the Amazon truck, and then turned his lights on, and I pulled over. And during the conversation with the police officer, I feel that the burden of proof is always on the state, and I requested to see the radar readout. He told me he did not have one, and that I could not see that. So again, I feel the burden of proof is on the state, and that's why I'm contesting.
Hey, sir, how fast do you think it is you were going?
I think I was going maybe 60, if that.
All right, that's
The
exactly
Amazon
what you have a
truck-
ticket for.
Well, yeah, 50, I don't know, 50, yeah, I guess so. But I still feel the burden of the proof is on the state. I requested to view the radar readout.
I will tell you this, sir, I don't know where that stems from. That's some sort of thing that I hear every once in a while for decades now. There is no such thing as the officer showing you, I mean, it's not like it puts out a ticket or something like that. The proof is the officer testifying right now here today that not only did he watch this happen, but that his radar, which was improper, working that and calibrated separately with his speedometer, beginning and after his shift, toned out a 73 and that you were the vehicle in the operational part of his radar, that's the proof, sir, his testimony. There is no sort of, receipt or something that the officer produces to show what the radar reading was. It's his testimony that's the evidence. The thing you're asking for, I've never seen produced as part of a speeding hearing. People just sort of say that once in a while. I'm not sure where it comes from. Maybe there's some other state that is a thing, but it's not here in Michigan.
Well, Your Honor, I just put it in the simple fact that I have requested it in the past, and I was allowed to view the radar readout, and also that when a police officer administers a a breathalyzer, whether it be on the road or in the sheriff's office facility, that accused is allowed to see.
But that's a little different, sir. That's because that's probable cause for a crime. Speeding is not a crime. It's just a civil infraction. So it has a lot lower burden of proof.
Oh, I see.
So you're right in that if you were accused of a crime, like say drunk driving, the officer would have to produce the data master result, like the actually show that the machine said that. But that's because there's a lot higher burden of proof on the state because you could be incarcerated. On something like a traffic ticket, you can't go to jail. All you could do is get fined. So it's a lot lower burden of proof. So there's not that sort of physical evidence thing. So I get where you're coming from. I don't want you to think that there's something the officer is doing here that's not sort of normal or not as sort of acceptable procedure. In a civil infraction, that burden is a lot lower. So you're allowed to do things like just sort of testify to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it sure does, Your Honor. And I thought this was, I did not know this was a civil infraction, really. I thought it was kind of like a misdemeanor or something.
Oh, well, that's the good news. It's a lot wimpier than that. The only thing that really happens to you as far as court is concerned is that fines and costs.
Yeah,
but
I understand.
The officer didn't write you for going, just so we're clear here, he didn't write you a ticket for going 73 and a 55. He gave you a break. He wrote you the wimpiest speeding ticket he could have written, just a 1 to 5 over. But as far as what my job is, I would find you responsible given the evidence that I've heard today on this speeder. Now, because you had a contested hearing, you do have a right to say, hey, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to go to what's called formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. But to do that, you must do two things. One is you must ask for that formally in writing, and you must ask for that within 7 days of today's date. That window of opportunity to continue contesting this closes. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
I do, Your Honor, and because I was under the understanding that this was a misdemeanor, not a civil infraction, well, I'll just plead guilty to the 1 to 5 over, I guess, the ticket that was wrote to me from Tetra.
Okay, then we're all set for what we need to do here today, all right?
You betcha.
I'm going to go ahead and release you.
Yep.
And you're all set. That was your only one here today, right?
Yep.
Here on this citation, it was issued on October 23rd of this year on Monroe. They're in Allegan Township. Is for window tint. So you're here on this citation to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this ticket. In other words, fight this at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
The third option, Your Honor.
Okay. So then what I'm going to do is swear anybody in who might testify. Go ahead and raise your right hands. Swear or affirm any testimony you give here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officers. They have the burden to establish to me why you were issued a citation in the first place. But then after that, you'll get to ask questions or testify on your own behalf. And so I'm not sure who's going to testify, but all right, and go ahead, just start your narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation.
Yes, Your Honor. So I saw a small passenger car with tinted windows, very dark, couldn't see the driver as I was approaching that, or as I was coming up to them traveling westbound on Monroe, while the vehicle was traveling eastbound. I then initiated a traffic stop, made contact with the driver. I don't want to butcher your last name, so I apologize, Angelo, and informed him that his window tint was too dark. He wasn't allowed to have it on the front passenger, on the front windshield, as well as the driver's side and the passenger side front windows. And then I wrote him a citation for it.
All right. And Mr. Patinopoulos, what is it you'd like to tell me?
Yes, yeah. So, sorry, I'm gonna take my mask off. I was working as a home health physical therapist. I was traveling from one patient's house to another patient's house. Was driving and I was initially pulled over because of some accessory lights that were on the vehicle. That's what I was told from the officer, and so he asked for my information and I provided it to him. And then upon retrieving my information back, was given an infraction for window tinting. The lights was never addressed after that, and so I was just I was never asked regarding if I have a prescription for the window tinting, let alone was I even given an explanation for what exactly was illegal and not illegal or allowed, because I did ask what exactly is not allowed or allowed.
Okay, but what is your point?
That I was pulled over for accessory lighting in the front of my vehicle.
Okay,
Initially.
so how would that be a defense to the fact that you're here on a ticket for having illegal window tint?
Just because there's some prejudice for why I was being pulled over in the first place.
How is that prejudice? Window tint is obvious, they can see it.
Yes.
You can't have window tint on your front or driver or passenger side windows.
Right, but if I have a prescription for the window tint, then it is.
You're right, that happens once in a while, produce it.
It's in my vehicle, sir. That's where it's supposed to say. I was never asked for my window.
All right, so you're here for your hearing of whether or not I'm gonna find you responsible on this ticket. You have a defense to this ticket that you have a medical document stating you're allowed to have tint.
Yes.
And you left it in your car.
It's in my work vehicle, yes.
And that makes sense to you that you didn't bring it here.
As we're supposed to be. I was never asked for it in the first place.
All right.
That's why I wanted this hearing in the first place, is because to demonstrate that there was some bias and some prejudice for why I was being pulled over.
How is that bias or prejudice?
I was being stereotyped, I felt like.
What is your classification? What category are you that you think you're being discriminated against?
The type of vehicle that I was driving, Your Honor. I mean, it looks kind of cool, like a sporty race car, but it's really not. It's just a stock vehicle.
So you think the constitutionally protected class that you belong to is drivers of sporty looking vehicles?
No, Your Honor. Yeah.
I mean, accuse law enforcement of pulling you over for essentially having a prejudice or discriminating against you, you would have to be a protected class.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So I just can't figure out what and then you have a defense, but you didn't bother to bring it to the trial?
I was never asked to bring it. I even asked when I asked to have.
Okay, then I gotta give you one last chance. Explain to me how I would do anything other than find you responsible on this ticket as issued with the evidence that's in front of me right now.
You would find me responsible for the ticket.
But you realize you could have been found not responsible by bringing in that prescription letter.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
But you chose not to.
I did not.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you're not sort of misunderstanding what your options here are.
I completely understand.
All right.
It's in my other vehicle. I'm sorry. Because I have to drive my personal vehicle because of the weather. But yeah, you're completely right. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, I understand that you're sort of feeling that, you know, the whole reason why this stopped, there was an issue with it. And now I think you're going to sort of feel like you sort of went in there and you know, you had your day in court and then you just, you know, they just either I didn't believe you or I just went with what the officer said. But I'm really just trying to sort of lay this out for you that this could have, in other words, you can even send that letter in. That's what a lot of people do. Send a copy of the letter and then the ticket goes away because that's the one reason you're allowed to. Did you mention to them that you had a prescription?
No, they never asked. They initially pulled me over for the accessory lighting. They said that your lights are legal.
Well, you know, that's also an issue depending on what colors they are.
And they're white, they're fog lights. So.
All right. But I would find you responsible on this citation, given the information that I've heard. Because you did have a contested hearing, you do have a right to appeal this further, to go to what's called formal hearing. But you must do two things in order to trigger that. You must ask for that within 7 days of today's date. That window of opportunity closes. And two, you must also ask for that formally in writing because you would have to post a bond. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
I understand, yes.
Okay. So we're all set for what we needed to do here today. Hello on the telephone.
Oh.
What's your name, please?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I don't know what's wrong with your telephone, but your audio is coming in terrible. We're not going to be able to conduct a hearing that way.
I don't know. This is the best service that I have where I'm at.
Well, now you're talking on the telephone. Now it's working. I don't know what was going on before. What is your name?
Oh, Tiana Ballman.
All right. So, Ms. Ballman, this is a citation that was issued on October 10th of this year on Maple Street there in the city of Fenville. This is a speeding citation on an actual 32 and a 20. However, the officer only wrote this as a 1 to 5 over. You're here on this 1 to 5 over speeding ticket to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Informal.
All right. Then I cannot see you, but I would ask you to raise your right hand the same way deputy is going to raise his right hand so I could swear you in. You swear or affirm any testimony that you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Ma'am, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the deputy. He has the burden to establish to me why you were issued this citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf, all right? And with that, deputy, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense, explain the issuing of this citation.
Yes, sir. So I was driving southbound on North Maple right near Fenville Middle School in the school zone. And the vehicle in question was approaching me. I had my front radar activated and it was only catching approaching vehicles. And I had her at 32 just coming into the 20-mile-per-hour school zone. I did not get a reading on her when she passed me due to the cars pulling out of the parking lot behind me. It was catching them, not her. But by the time I flipped around, she pulled into the school zone or into the school entrance, and that's when I activated my lights. When talking with her, she said there was no way she was going 32, but said she was going about 20 to 25. Giving her the benefit of the doubt and trying to cut her a break, I wrote her for the 1 to 5 over non-school zone instead of the 12 over she was doing in the school zone when she entered the school zone.
All right. And Ms. Ballman, what is it you'd like to tell me?
It's basically the same thing. If I was doing 32. I didn't realize it. I don't think I was doing 32. I even asked to see footage, but he said I did have to get that from the court, which is understandable. Everything he said is truthful, but I don't feel like I was doing 32, and I was doing more so around the speed limit, and I didn't realize that the school zone speed was actually 20. It's always been 25, like anywhere else I've ever drove. So that's basically all I do have to say.
All right. Well, you do not have a speeding ticket for going 32. The deputy gave you a break. He wrote you a ticket for going 1 to 5 over. So that seems to be the speed that you're actually admitting to. So for purposes of what I need to do, I would find you responsible on the citation as it's written as just a 1 to 5 over. You know, you did have a hearing, so you do have a right to appeal this verdict. But to do that, you must do that within 7 days of today's date. And you must come in because you have to post a bond and ask for the formal hearing in writing. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yes.
All right. Then we're all set for what we needed to do here today. I'm going to go ahead and release you.
All right.
All right. There it is. Your audio's on now. Okay. This is citation that was issued on October 13th of this year on Blue Star Highway there at Ganges Township, Allen County, state of Michigan. This is for expired plate.
Yeah.
Ms. Bauman, you're here on this citation to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or 2, you wish to admit responsibility but provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I guess the second one.
All
Just
right.
Explain
And
my
what is it you'd
situation.
like to tell me?
Well, I apologize, first of all, for the plates being expired. I truthfully, I could not afford them on my birthday. I'm on disability right now, so I get my payment once a month. I was going to pay the following month in August. I had some health issues going on throughout the summer. Well, they worsened quite a bit at the end of August. The 20th of August, I ended up in the hospital for over 2.5 weeks. And then I had gotten out and wasn't driving for a little while. And then that night I just decided, to run to the store to get some pumpkin bars, and I totally didn't even think about my plates at all, because like I said, I had a lot going on. I actually had a toe amputated. So, I mean, it was like kind of a big deal going on. So I do apologize.
All right. Well, there's a certain amount of grace period. It's usually not 4 months. So, but you've taken care of this now?
I did. And yes, sir. And I do want to mention about that. I don't have the ticket, of course, in front of me because I brought it in and I didn't take a picture or nothing. Anyway, it said it had been over 3 months late, but my birthday is on the 15th and the ticket was issued in the middle of the night on the 13th of October.
Ma'am, but your birthday's in July.
Yeah. And it said over 3 months on the ticket. So that's what I just wondered.
Over
so it was
30 days, ma'am.
Oh, 30 days it said? Okay,
Yeah.
see, again, I don't have it in front of me, so I thought it said 3 months on that ticket.
No,
So
no,
okay.
30 days.
And then the other thing was
All right, so
the bottom,
you're
yeah.
all set then. If you have your registration, you shouldn't get this ticket again. So all you have to do is make arrangements with the court to pay that fines and costs, and you'll be all set.
Okay. So there's no, I just wonder, why does it say on the bottom of the ticket, if you do, like, it was like a repair and report. It said basically, if you correct the ticket and bring it in, then the fines may be waived or reduced.
Yes, ma'am. And I would normally do that, but not this much later. It's too late.
Oh, okay then.
All right. Thank
All right,
you.
thanks. Yep.
All right. I think that was your only one. So go ahead and release you. Thank you.
Thank you, Magistrate.
All right, Mr. Soka, you want to take yourself off mute so we'd be able to hear you.
All right, can you hear me?
All right. Yep, this is a citation. It was issued on February 14th of this year on 38th Street there in Heath Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is a speeding citation on an actual 83 and a 55. However, the officer only wrote this as a 1 to 5 over. Mr. Sopka, you're here on this 1 to 5 over speeding ticket to do one of three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, you could admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Fight it with an explanation, or say it with an, or explain it with an explanation.
All right, and what is it you'd like to tell the court?
I have IBS and I'm working on getting it diagnosed as Crohn's disease, and I was about to poop my pants. And I really had to use the bathroom, and I had my dog in the car.
All right. Well, I will tell you, I mean, you know, something like that would certainly sort of, you know, be your reason why you're speeding, but you understand that that wouldn't be like a legal defense that would get you out of speeding. I will say this, that the trooper used their discretion to write you a far wimpier ticket than they could have written. Like I said, you weren't written a ticket for going almost 30 miles an hour. He just chose to write you a 1 to 5 over. So here's what I will tell you on that is essentially the only punishment the court has for a citation of this nature is the fines and costs. Lots of times when people come in here and they're concerned about a ticket, it's because they're concerned about getting points on their license. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, and that's exactly why I was here today.
All right, so let me explain to you what's going on with points. The trooper didn't give you points. I'm not going to give you points. Points don't come from the court. Like I said, the court only gives you fines and costs. The points come from the Secretary of State, different animal. Here's what I'll tell you about points. They die a natural death every 2 years. They just sort of go away again. So you could just wait them out. Or there is a way for you to get rid of your points on this ticket, but I can't do it for you. All I can do is explain to you how to do it for yourself. But if you're interested, we have time and I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah, gladly. If it's like a website or something, give me just 1 second so I can write it down.
Exactly. Yeah, so get a pen. On the Michigan Secretary of State's website, they have something called the Basic Driver Improvement Course. Basic Driver Improvement Course. It's essentially a safe driving quiz. I don't think it's that hard, but it does take time for you to complete. Here are the rules, though. You can't be a CDL driver. You're not driving the big rigs, right?
Correct.
You can't have more than 2 points on your license already. And you can't have taken this course to get rid of points in the recent past. They don't let you just sort of keep using this method. But provided you meet those criteria, you go to the Secretary of State's website, you sign up and take that Basic Driver Improvement Course, and the carrot they give you for completing it, they'll remove the points from anyone moving violation, which is what this is. So like I said, there's a way for you to get rid of the points. You got to do the legwork. All I can do is explain to you how to do it. All right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right. So as far as court, all you need to do is call the court to make arrangements to pay that fines and costs. But other than that, the points are between you and the Secretary of State, but it sounds like you could get rid of them if you wanted to. All right?
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and release you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. And then, ma'am, on the Google Pixel, what's your name?
Marilyn Moore.
All right. That's who I was looking for. All right. This is a citation. It was issued on November 14th of this year on M89, maybe 39. Okay. In Gunplain Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan, it's failure to stop a clear and assured distance to avoid an accident. Ma'am, you are here on this citation to do one of three things. First is to admit responsibility on this citation, or two, you could admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I believe option 2.
All right. And what is it you'd like to tell me?
I was at the stop sign, or excuse me, the stoplight on M89 and 12th Street headed east, right by the Sunoco gas station there and across from Meyer. We were all stopped, and the light turned green, and I took my foot off the brake. I did not accelerate. I just took my foot off the brake, and I started creeping forward, and then they stopped again. So I immediately put my brake on, but I bumped the car ahead of me. It was a very light.
The front of your car hit the back of the car in front of you?
Yes, if you want to call it a hit. It was a very gentle bump, but yes, there was no damage, but we pulled, I saw he pulled over, so I followed him onto 12th Street, and I got out and I said, well, I don't see any damage, do you? And he said, we're calling the cops, we're calling the cops. He was very angry at me, and I said, okay, no problem. So we pulled into the gas station and waited for the officer, and then the officer came and asked me what happened, and I told him, and I said, I do not see any damage on either car. And he indicated that he did not either. There was not even a scruff of paint or anything. I had to be going less than a mile an hour. I mean, I just let off my brake.
Well, the way that this works, though, is anytime there's a rear end collision, that's always going to be the behind car's fault, because you're supposed to be able to stop, clear an assured distance before you touch another car. So
I do understand.
You always would get this ticket for that.
I guess the word collision is what I am protesting, because I don't know how you can collide when there was literally no sign of anything.
Well, ma'am, you're just not allowed to hit another car. That person could have said, oh, I don't see any damage, let's go on our way. But once law enforcement is involved, you're always going to get this ticket as the behind car on a rear end collision. So the only thing that happens as far as the court is concerned is that fines and costs you need to pay. I will, if you want to, give you the explanation about points. That's usually what most people are concerned about when they have a ticket. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Your Honor, could I interrupt for a minute, please?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to say this earlier. I wrote this citation because of departmental procedure. If we get dispatched to an accident, we are instructed to write the at-fault vehicle. I did not feel right about this citation, but the other driver was insistent. There was no damage to either car. I could not even find any dirt transfer from either vehicle. So there was a minimal impact to either vehicle. The other driver was insistent in my citation. And like I said, I issued this because of departmental procedure.
You want to do it as impeding?
I'm sorry?
We can do it as impeding. I can amend it. I have no problem with that.
Actually, Your Honor, I don't have a problem dropping the citation at all.
All right. So, ma'am, in other words, I can't dismiss your ticket. I can decide whether or not you did it. That's a separation of powers between judicial and executive. Law enforcement, the executive branch, just said that they have no problem asking for this ticket to be dismissed. I'm assuming you would have no objection to that.
You are correct.
All right, then that's what we will do. This ticket will proceed simply by not proceeding. So there's nothing further that you need to do other than, later this morning when I go in the system, this ticket will kind of go away. So we're all set here for what we need to do, all right?
Okay, so I don't need to do any paperwork or anything.
No, it's for me to do, not for you. All right?
All right, thank
All
you,
right,
and
you're
thank you,
all set.
officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a good day.
You too. That was your only one, so I'll let you go. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yes, sir.
This is a citation. It was issued on October 22nd of this year on Blue Star there in the city of Douglas, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is a speeding citation on an actual 50 and a 35. However, the officer only wrote this as a 1 to 5 over. So, Ms. Rodriguez, you're here on a speeding 1 to 5 over. Your options are one of these three things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation and fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Yeah, I would like to do the informal hearing, please.
All right. Then the first thing I'm going to do is swear you both in. If you could raise your right hands. You swear or affirm that any testimony that you might give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
All right. Ms. Rodriguez, it makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. She has the burden to establish to me why you were issued a citation in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify in your own behalf. All right?
Okay.
And with that, officer, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation.
All right. Well, as you said, on 10/22/2023, I was conducting stationary radar in the city of Douglas. I was sitting just off of Blue Star Highway, was north of Ferry Street, and there used to be a Hayworth building there. It's an empty lot now, but conducting stationary radar. I observed a vehicle drive past me at a high rate of speed. And looked at my radar, and I could hear the tone, I guess you call it the tone, going up, which means it's speeding higher, I guess. And it was also showing the numbers going higher. It showed 48, 49, 50. At that point on the vehicle that was passing me, it was, I believe it was a maroon Pontiac. At that point, I pulled out, went to go catch up to the vehicle on that road where my radar was showing it going 50 miles an hour. It's only 35 miles an hour. Anyway, pulled out, got behind the vehicle, conducted a traffic stop, explained the reason for the stop. It was Angelo Rodriguez that was driving, and then issued a ticket. Instead of writing for the full thing of 50 and a 35, just wrote her for 1 to 5 over and a 35.
Okay. And Ms. Rodriguez, what do you wish to tell me?
Well, sir, I went to go and get a fish dinner, and at the same time, my son was calling me to come and get him from his friend's house that had took him from work to his house so I could pick him up. Well, I was looking for this road. There was no way. And the road that I was on was only 25 miles an hour, sir. And when I'm looking for a road, I'm sure not going to be flying, trying to look for a road, looking for a home for my son. So, yeah, I have pictures where I was. It is 25 down that road. I was not speeding at 50. There was no way. And like she said, she believed it was a maroon car. That's on all of recording. Like, it was not for sure thing. It was a belief thing. And, I don't believe that was my car. I was going slow to look for my son. My son will even go to court as well because he was working and he got a ride from home from a friend. So I was literally looking for a home, and I know you can't be doing 55 or 50 looking for a home. So
We weren't looking for a home on Blue Star across from
no,
Hayward
it was
plant.
see, I was looking for
And the speed limit on that road is 35. That's why you have a ticket for going 5 over on a 35, not
But she
25.
believed it.
It's
But she
also
believed.
'12:30 in the morning.
But she, yeah,
Officer,
because he
any
works
other cars
second.
around?
He works second shift. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to me.
They were not.
Okay.
When
So
she
based
drove
upon
by,
the
that
evidence,
was the only vehicle on the road.
based upon the evidence I've heard here, I would find you responsible on this citation as it's written. Now, because you had a contested hearing, you would have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to go to formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office. But to do that, you must do two things. First of all, you must ask for that within 7 days of today's date. Your window of opportunity closes after 1 week. And second, you must come in because you have to post a bond and formally request that formal hearing. Do you understand your rights on appeal?
Yep.
All right, and we're all set here. I'm going to go ahead and release you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're all set. Thank you. You are here on your 1010 with Isaiah Aberlad. He wrote us an email essentially saying that he was planning on coming to this. He had an emergency, had to fly out of country. Supposed to be coming back to Michigan today. However, the flight got canceled and rebooked for tomorrow. This was an email from yesterday. Leaving at 9 in the morning. Oh, I say all that and he's here. Never mind. Hold on a second.
Okay.
I was just going to say that since he couldn't be here, we don't reset informals, but I told them we would reset it as a formal. So he'd still get his day in court. It just would be in front of the district court. But if he's about to be here, then I guess we can just do it now.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Mr. Labillard, you made it. Are you in an airport?
No, I'm in my country right now. I had to reschedule my flight today.
All right. So we can handle this today. This is a citation that was issued on February 18th of this year on US 131 there in Door Township, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is a speeding citation on an actual 101 and a 70. The ticket is for being 26 miles or more over. So on this speeding citation, yes. I can hear you. You can hear me, right?
No, it's going in and out. I'm sorry. I just have terrible connection because I'm out the country.
All right. On this citation, you have a choice. One of three things you need to do. First is you could admit responsibility to the ticket, or two, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or three, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight this ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Informal hearing is basically what I'm doing right now, talking to you about the ticket, fighting the ticket, but talking to you guys, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to do that because I'm honestly, it was just a mistake on my part. If you guys are willing to do that, I just don't want the points on my license because it's my first speeding ticket. So this is my first time going through something like this, so I don't really know what to say.
All right. Well, I will tell you this, we don't have anything to do with points. The only punishment the court has is that fine, the $170 fine. The points come to you from the Secretary of State. You have to address points with them separate. We can't do anything about points.
Oh, the Secretary of State.
Yes, they're the one that assign you points.
Okay, so do I have to fight the ticket then do the points, or what? So do I do both to get the points?
Well, if you're disagreeing that you were speeding, then you should fight the ticket. We'll do that hearing right now.
Okay.
So I need you to raise your. Go ahead.
Okay. Honestly, I'm just trying to fight the tickets because it was just a lack of misunderstanding. But I was actually speeding because I was just going to the hospital because I just dropped my grandmother at the hospital in Grand Rapids. I dropped her at the airport. Then something happened that I had to drive to the hospital real quick after I dropped her off. So that's why I don't know. I honestly just don't know what to say because it's my first time being in this situation. But if I can get some guidance of how to continue this process to see how to fight this ticket, I would be interested.
Okay. If you're fighting the ticket, then we're going to have a hearing right now. I need you to raise your right hand the same way the deputy is raising his right hand. Your other right hand, sir.
I'm so sorry. I can't.
Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. It makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. He has the burden to establish to me why he issued you a citation in the first place. But after that, you would have an opportunity to either testify on your own behalf or ask questions, all right?
Okay.
And with that, Deputy, if you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense and explain the issuing of this citation.
Yes, sir. First off, I am certified in speed measurement in the state of Michigan. My radar is calibrated. In my patrol vehicle at the beginning and end of shift each day, utilizing my independently calibrated speedometer in my patrol vehicle. On February 18th of 2023 at approximately 4:24 in the morning, while conducting stationary radar patrol on US 131 highway near the 68-mile marker in Door Township, I did observe the defendant's vehicle traveling northbound at a high rate of speed. Activated my rear stationary radar and detected the vehicle traveling at 101 miles an hour in a 70-mile-an-hour zone. The defendant's vehicle was the only vehicle within the operational beam of the radar unit, and my radar unit produced an audio tone that matched the readout that was provided. There's no RFI present, as my radar unit would not provide a readout if such was. A traffic stop was conducted where contact was made with the defendant, who advised that he needed to use the bathroom and that he was only going 70 miles an hour. After issuing the defendant this citation, he stated he was going a max of 80 miles an hour.
All right. And sir, what is it you'd like to tell me?
So basically, I did need to use the bathroom, but like my main thing was I was just trying to get to the hospital because I just dropped my grandmother at the airport literally like 20-30 minutes ago, because she was going to her country because of like personal issues, because she was getting older and something happened. I don't know what happened at the airport. I just had to rush back to the hospital because I guess something happened at the airport. So I was rushing to the hospital, but I was speeding. I was going over the speed limit.
All right. So I would find you responsible on this citation as it's written, given the evidence that I've heard here today. Like I said, the only thing you have to do with the courts is pay that fines and costs. The points that you get from this, you would deal with separately with Secretary of State. Two things I would tell you about points. One is they just go away every 2 years, so you could just sort of wait them out and they would go away again. Or you could actually try to get rid of the points with Secretary of State by looking up the basic driver improvement course on their website. That's the other method for getting rid of points. I just don't know if it's available for this particular ticket. You'd have to check with Secretary of State. But because you did have a contested hearing, you also have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to take this to formal hearing. Formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office, you must ask for that in writing and within 7 days of today's date. Otherwise, that window to continue to fight this closes. Do you understand your options?
Can you say the last part one more time, please?
If you wish to contest this further to what's called formal hearing, you must do that within 7 days of today's date, and you must do that formally in writing. Otherwise, that window of opportunity to keep fighting the ticket closes, and you would accept this finding and just make arrangements to pay the fines and costs. All right?
All right. Also, I'm unable to pay it. I'm a college student. I'm just struggling right now. Is there like a course I would be able to take, or something like a community service you guys would be able to offer me, so I can find a way to because I was in the wrong in this situation. Is there a way for me to I can community service?
Yes, if you call the court when you make arrangements to pay and you can't pay, they can put you through the process where you may be able to turn in community service instead of paying fines and costs.
Okay.
All right, but you're all set for what we needed to do here today. I'm going to go ahead and release you. Thank you.
So what's the next step looking like? So what do I do next? Do I have to write you guys?
Well, if you accept the finding of you were speeding, you just have to come and make arrangements for how you're going to pay it. If you want to continue to fight it, that's what you have to do in writing within 7 days.
And then so if I fight it, I have to come back to. Do I have to go in person? It's still gonna be on virtual.
Well, if you have a bench trial, the prosecutor would decide that, but I think they're doing most of them by Zoom.
Okay. So today,
All right.
so basically, it's either today. So if I want to continue fighting, so you guys are not dropping the ticket, basically.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
You were found responsible after our hearing.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to remove you. Thank you.
Your audio. Hello.
Hi there.
Yep. 1 second. All right, so we are here on the citation. This is written March 1st of this year on Lee Township there, Allegan County, state of Michigan. This is 2 different civil infractions for dogs running. You are here on these citations, Ms. Warren, to do one of 3 things. First would be to admit responsibility to the citation, or 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation. In other words, fight these tickets at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do? Ms. Warren?
Yes.
What's your preference?
I want to fight him, I guess, because the Angel, which was the first dog, kept breaking her collar, and I kept trying to keep her on the leash, and then I had surrendered her, and I no longer had her.
All right. If you wish to fight this citation, that's fine. We'll have an informal hearing. I'll tell you the elements to this citation is a dog that you own or that is your property is caught or seen running off of your property somewhere else. All right. That's going to be what the hearing is about. You wish to have a hearing, I need you to go ahead and raise your right hand. Same way deputy is going to raise her right hand. Swear or affirm that any testimony you give here today would be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. It makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. She has the burden to establish to me why she issued citations in the first place. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either ask questions or testify on your own behalf. All right. And Deputy Bywater, you want to pick up the narrative somewhere where it makes sense to start and explain the issuing of these citations?
Yes, sir. We issued the citation after the second dog was brought to the shelter. The dog had been on neighbor's property. We had been having video evidence and picture evidence from the neighbor as far back as December. What the German Shepherd and the yellow dog, I think Angel was her name, running. When we picked up Angel, we had left a first time warning about the German Shepherd mixed dog. And we received more pictures after that of the dog on the neighbor's property by herself, but also with 2 other little dogs. And then the third and fourth time we saw the dog was, we actually got one in a trap, which we then took to the shelter. And it was after that moment that we issued the citations.
Okay. And so I want to be clear because this is written to the civil infractions on the same ticket. So I'm assuming that's talking 2 different dogs. So we're talking about a German Shepherd. And the other one is, okay. And Angel is what kind of dog?
She was a pit bull collie mix.
Okay.
She was like a yellowy blonde.
Yep.
We had her down as like a Shar-Pei mix, not knowing what her mix was. She looked Shar-Pei-ish to us without knowing her full history background.
So this is a number of occasions, and this goes from, you said from December to, it looks like at least February or March.
Yes.
Different events. All right. So, Miss Warren, what is it you'd like to say? In other words, here's what you're accused of, is that these dogs are your dogs and that your dogs are running around outside of your property.
Okay.
Whether that's on a public place or on a neighbor's property, and that this has happened numerous times. What is it about that you're contesting?
Every time she broke her collar, Angel broke her collar, I tried to get her back and put her back on the leash and everything, but I didn't know the German Shepherd, which was Abigail, was loose more than once, because I have a fence that I put her in now that she don't get out at all no more.
All right. So with Angel, it's that you were trying to keep the dog from running at large, but it just kept getting out, and you just weren't aware of Abigail getting out more than just the one time.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I see here calls on, I see multiple calls involving the Shepherd, the German Shepherd.
Because I didn't know she was
February
running loose,
20th.
honestly. I did not know she was running loose like that.
And then same two dogs in multiple times in January too. All right. And it was the Shepherd that was actually trapped in the trap?
Yes.
Looks like. And that's in March. So that's at least.
And that's the last time
times.
she's got loose. Because
okay, sure, but 5 times is about 4 times too many, right?
Okay. Yes. Understand that.
So essentially, I do want to say, I just want to explain to you sort of what my ruling is, how we got there. This ticket is for what's called running at large, they call it. And what that means is, either here are the 2 options. The dog can be with you, like on a leash, you take them to the park or something like that on public property. But if the dog's not with you, then they have to be on their property. They can't, just keep going over to a neighbor's property. The officers are out there for sort of multiple complaints. I don't even think they write you a ticket the first couple times because they're just trying to hope it stops happening. They only get to the ticket stage because they just keep having to respond to the same sort of call. So given the information that I have here today at what we call informal hearing, I would find you responsible on this citation for the 2 counts of running dog. Essentially, I believe that is.
Well, what if I surrendered one of the dogs? I did surrender Angel, and I'm on disability, and I can't afford a citation.
Well, ma'am, that's exactly why you shouldn't let the dogs do this, because it's going to cost you money. But the fact that you don't own one of the dogs anymore wouldn't change the fact that of when this citation was written, that you were the owner of animals that were in fact running at large. So it would be my finding here of the responsibility. So here's your options. Because you had a contested hearing, you do have a right to say, I don't agree with what just happened there. I don't think I should have been found responsible on those citations. You can appeal this to what's called formal hearing in front of the district court judges with the prosecutor's office, but you must do that within 7 days of today's date, and you must do that in writing. You understand those rights on appeal?
Yes.
All right. Then we're all set for what we needed to do here today. I'm going to go ahead and release parties. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Looks like we have 6 citations altogether.
Yes.
All right. So first batch I have here issued on June 26th of this year on 110th Street there, Gunplain Township, Allen County, state of Michigan. There's 3 citations on this one. The other matter has also an issue date. These must have been same stop. Just more things to write. June 26th on same thing there on 9th Street there in Gunplain Township. All right, so, and I'm sorry, you said your first name's Nathan?
Yep, Nathan Bernard Wolf.
All right.
The name is on the ticket there.
Yep. So we're here on these citations for you to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to a citation, or 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why that happened, or 3, you wish to contest a citation. In other words, to fight a ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I would like to fight the tickets.
All right. So first thing I'm going to do, even though I cannot see you, I'll ask you to raise your right hand. Same way the motor carrier officer is going to raise his right hand. You swear or affirm all the information you're about to testify to here is true to the best of your information and belief.
I do.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. It makes a lot more sense for me to start with the officer. He has the burden to establish to me why these citations were issued. But after that, you'll have an opportunity to either testify on your own behalf or ask questions. All right?
Okay.
And with that, you want to pick up the narrative, Officer Kelly, and
Sure.
spell out what we're doing here.
This was not a result of a traffic stop. Motor carrier investigator with the state police. I typically conduct what they call compliance reviews on trucking companies. And these reviews come about as a result of either a complaint from a citizen or another officer, or your roadside inspections can generate a visit based on the violations on the roadside inspections. In this particular instance, I was assigned to go and visit Bernie's Holloway and do a review of their operation. This is my 4th time since 2018 in visiting the company. And these violations have been cited multiple times over that time frame. And referring to the one citation for the general requirements for driver qualification files, there was a driver there, Robert Stone, that was used as a driver. He was stopped and Bernie's Holloway did not have a driver file on this driver. And what that driver file contains is an employment application, a copy of their medical certificate, their driving record, and a copy of their driver's license. And what that does is it ensures that the company is hiring a qualified driver. So they're not putting someone with, say, an operator license behind the wheel of a truck that requires a CDL. And not just that they have the proper license, but that it's also valid and that their medical card is valid, current, and those kinds of things. There's also no maintenance file for one vehicle. What the maintenance file would contain is a copy of the annual inspection, any maintenance records, just as an example, like your personal vehicle, you take it in for oil changes, repairs, things like that. You generally have a receipt or a record of that repair from the dealership or your mechanic. This file would contain those items as well as the annual inspection, so it would demonstrate that your vehicle is being maintained and that you have records of it. So where that ties in is your roadside inspections. If there's a lot of equipment violations on roadside inspections, that can trigger a review depending on the size of your fleet, number of violations, the type of violations, say the time frame you get those violations in. So in a nutshell, what I do with that is I look at the inspections roadside. Did you fix this vehicle after it was placed out of service, or did you drive it back to your shop to fix it instead of repairing it on scene? Did you repair it? Are you doing any kind of maintenance? There's one on there, it's labeled other motor carrier violation.
Yep.
And they don't have the specific violation in our ticket system. That was for allowing a disqualified or otherwise suspended driver to operate. That would be for Mr. Stone. His license has been revoked for several years. He does not have a valid license. And because the company did not check Mr. Stone's driving record or driver license before they put him behind the wheel of a truck, they weren't aware that he was suspended, but they weren't doing their due diligence and checking to make sure that he was qualified. The explanation provided to me was that the truck had broken down and he had sent Mr. Stone out there to pick up the vehicle. He believed he had a valid, he knew he didn't have a CDL, but he believed he had a valid license because he drove to work every day. With the other set of citations there, with CDL drivers, you're required to do a pre-employment drug test to make sure that they're not under the influence or using any controlled substances. This particular case, Mr. Stone was not given a pre-employment test. The company is required to have a confirmed negative pre-employment test prior to letting them operate a vehicle that requires a CDL. There was also no annual inspection for one vehicle. And then this other thing called the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, that was not necessarily a requirement at my first review with the company back in 2018, but it has been for the 2021, 2022, and 2023 reviews. And what this is just in an example, 20 years ago, if I held a CDL license, was working for a company, was sent in for a random drug and alcohol test, and say I tested positive for cocaine. The company had a couple of options. They could terminate my employment, or they could put me through return to duty testing, which is drug counseling and some drug and alcohol testing to make sure I'm staying clean, so to speak. Generally what would happen is the company would fire me and I'd go find another job. Nobody would check my background, things like that. They wouldn't check with my employer to see if I had had any drug or alcohol testing issues. What this clearinghouse does is it kind of ensures that if I do have a positive test, alcohol or drugs, it's automatically reported to this clearinghouse. So a prospective employer could go and check my name through this clearinghouse to see if I'd had a positive test for alcohol or drugs. And
so
then
that somebody's not just hopping around.
Exactly. It kind of eliminates how it was 20 years ago. Company was been advised of this, at least on the last 3 reviews between 2021 and this last one, 2023, as well as 2022. And I believe I cited that in those 3 reviews. It was explained to me that they didn't do a pre-employment test on Mr. Stone because he's not a driver, yet he was driving on a documented inspection with the carrier name. And the clearinghouse, I was told that there was an attempt to enroll in it, but they've had nothing but issues, but they made no attempts to contact Federal Motor Carrier Safety or the state police with assistance. So in a nutshell, this is why I've written these citations. I've written these several years before, other various ones mixed in. Company is well aware that they're required to do these things. They're just not doing them.
All right. All right, Mr. Wolf, we have 6 different citations. We'll just sort of start and go through them one at a time. That you have no driver file is your first citation. Wish to contest that or admit it?
The contesting about it is Robert was not a driver working for me. It was I had to get the truck out of there, so I did not have, I mean, he was not a licensed CDL driver. He did not drive the truck for me. I just had to get the truck out of where it was at when it was broke down. It was at a township hall and they were having a cleanup the next day. And I did talk to the officer about that.
Except that, hold on, before we keep going, Mr. Stone was found to be driving one of your vehicles during a previous stop.
That one stop when he was driving it back to the shop. But he was not hired as a driver.
Well, that's very unfortunate for you, but I'm not interested in the spirit of what he was doing. I'm interested in the actual what he was doing. So if he was driving a vehicle for you, he was the driver.
Okay. I did not have a driving record or driving file for him because he was hired as a guy to cut firewood for me, run farm equipment.
All right. So moving on to ticket number 2, you're missing a maintenance file for a vehicle.
Yep, the
Wish to
maintenance
admit
file
that or
was
contested?
that was incomplete to his standards. There was some file, but it was not complete. So I will be guilty of that.
All right. Number 3, you allowed Mr. Stone to drive a vehicle. He doesn't have a valid license.
I allowed him to drive a vehicle that was fixed back to the shop. He was not a driver for me.
Okay.
So that's why, like, I have no problem.
He does not have a valid license, and the fact is he was driving one of your vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number 4, any pre-employment drug test for Mr. Stone?
Once again, he was not a driver for me to have a pre-employment on file for him.
All right. And number 5, any proof that you attempted to enroll in this clearinghouse?
The clearinghouse is something even me as an owner has to be in, and I am not, so I admit guilt on that.
All right. And then the last ticket, you're missing an annual inspection for one of the vehicles.
Yes, I was not able to locate that. And I did find out from him, and he's told me before. I mean, I'm not going to lie. What he's saying is the truth. But I'm supposed to have one in the truck and one in the file, and did not have it in the file. So I did not have.
All right. Anything further you'd like to say, sir? Mr. Wolf, anything further you'd like to testify to? Yes.
The only thing I'm contesting about is the stuff that has to do with Robert Stone. The other stuff, I admit guilt. I was wrong when didn't have it correct.
All right. I understand your argument that you were making on Mr. Stone, but for purposes of what we're doing here, here's the problem. It's not like you guys aren't on notice to mind your P's and Q's, right? It's the 4th time you've had an inspection to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Given your view of things, we might be able to chalk it up to just really bad luck that on this, particular time, the one time Mr. Stone was driving a vehicle of yours, there's, proof from law enforcement's side that he was in fact driving. But your problem is, you're not the type of company that should be, operating in the gray at all with something like, well, we just let them drive the one time. The whole purpose of this is that, that they have to come in there and fine you as a disincentive to running, a shop that's not up to par.
Yeah.
So I would get to find you responsible.
Some of the first.
But after this testimony, just I want to make sure you understand your rights on appeal. I am going to find this responsible for all 6 violations. Now, because we had a contested hearing, you have a right to say, hey, I don't agree with what just happened there. I want to contest this further to formal hearing with the prosecutor's office in front of the district court judges. But to do that, you must ask for that within 7 days of today's date, and you must ask for it formally in writing. I want to make sure you understand those rights on appeal.
I do understand that.
All right. Then we're all set for what we needed to do here today at what we call informal hearing. So you would have a decision to make. Either you're going to call the front office to make arrangements to pay those fines and costs, or you would be contacting the front office to request formal hearing, or somehow, split the difference between what you want to continue fighting and what you want to admit to. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, officer. I'm going to go ahead and release you.
All right.